So in terms of traction for VC investment, there's a lot of things that we can talk about, but specifically because my background and my expertise is in financial modeling, what I'm going to chat about today is how to translate what you're doing already into what would make a VC go, ooh, I want to invest in you. Because very frankly, there's a lot of this that's about numbers and metrics, but at the end of the day, a founder is not being invested in because they have a good idea. They're not being invested in because the market is doing well. They're being invested in because a VC or an angel or somebody somewhere thinks that you, the founder, can personally make that product land in that market. It is not the product, it is not the market, it is how you can do that in that market. So one of the things that's really interesting about VC investment is most of us do not know the VC managing director that's going to sign the check for our startup. We don't. We don't know them personally, we haven't been best friends with them, we didn't go to MBA school with them, so they're not going to give us that trust and reputation just from the get-go. You have to tell them a story, you give them a pitch, you do something else so that they get to know you well enough to say, I think I want to bet on you. Coming from a background of financial modeling, there's two things that this helps with. One, how can you use metrics to tell your story very succinctly? If you have a 2-minute pitch, can you say 3 numbers that make them say, I need to talk to you afterwards? But on the flip side, when we speak English, when we don't use any numbers and we're just telling our story as it is, what is a VC doing? They're translating that in their minds into whether or not you are a good bet for them, if there's a lot of risk associated with you, if there's a lot of uncertainty associated with you, if there's a lot of reasons why maybe you should not be the person that they bet on. So what we're really talking about today in terms of traction for this VC investment is how can you translate what you're saying and what you're doing in English into what the VC is hearing on their end, and whether that is a yes, let's chat more, or no, I think I should chat with somebody else. I'm gonna pause there and I'm gonna poll the room. Can you raise your hand if you have a startup or a business? Oh, that is almost everyone. Okay, this is gonna be fun. Can you raise your hand if you have at least one part of your business that is pre-revenue? Oh, very fun. Okay, we're gonna divide the conversation today into pre-revenue and post-revenue. And that's because there are 3 types of things that we're gonna talk about. One of them is revenue metrics. One of them is non-revenue metrics, because you can still have traction without having revenue. And the last one is non-metrics. And I'm gonna pick on this one first, because if there's anything that you're doing that you cannot measure, it's a good thing to stop for a second and check why. If you're saying, I cannot measure how much better this product version is than my last one, but I know that I'm getting so much closer to product market fit, that is something that sounds like it couldn't be a metric, but it also could be. And if you can step back for a second and say, I'm getting traction, my best traction right now is how much better my product is landing, then if you can spend a moment saying, how can I measure this traction? How can I show that I'm growing? You might be able to, instead of spending 2 minutes in a 2-minute pitch talking about how you are doing something, spend 2 seconds in a 2-minute pitch saying, my product is landing with my market 20% better than last quarter and 40% better than the quarter before that. Let's go to the beginning. I believe that a founder has 3 things that they want to show a VC. They want to show them that they have business insights, market insights, and execution ability. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what your product is. These are the 3 things that they want to see. Why? I'm going to define them really specifically. So business insight is going to be your natural ability to guess what is a good thing to do in the business world. Let's say that's something like knowing when to pivot your product, knowing when to ask for advice, knowing when to show up and say, I'm not prepared for this, but I'm gonna go speak anyways. All of the things that you can do on the cuff and just be like, I feel like this is right. When you get introduced to somebody and you don't know who they are and you just have a conversation with them and feel them out, all of these elements are business insights. And you can't really teach that, but also it is the easiest of these 3 things to mimic. This is the easiest of the 3 things where you can say, I'm not currently a business leader, But I'm going to find somebody else, use them as a role model, and mimic them. I'm going to copy their every step until I understand this for myself. I have my own version of this. And that's when you're going to start seeing that you land with the people that you're talking to differently. All of a sudden, a VC is going to see your personal flavor rather than a person that they think they could coach. That's going to be a huge shift. But it's also, again, business insight is the easiest thing to mimic. You can read a book, you can have a role model, but when it's actually your own business insights, that's when you're going to feel like a leader in this space. Let's talk about the thing that you can't get from someone else. Market insights you can get by hiring somebody else. You can bring someone onto your team and say, my collective team has 15 years of AI experience. I do not. But you can hire for that. Why is market insight important, and why am I splitting it out from business insight? Business insight is this natural instinct where you're like, I can go with the flow and know what to do. Versus market insight is saying, I know my customer the best. I know what their pain point is. I know how to find them, who has this pain point, and how do I make them part of my community. And I know what to say to them so that they go, you can solve my pain point, please take my money. That's what market insight is. It's not business insight. And so business insight you can transfer from one industry to another. You can have a mentor who's in a completely different market than you are. But you have to be able to command your market. You have to be able to know your customer in and out. You have to be able to communicate to them why you solve their pain point. That's going to be our market insights. And now we're going to talk about traction to get investment. Because in order to show that you have these two things, you can talk about it, but it will take you 2 minutes of a 2-minute pitch. It will take you 4 minutes of a 5-minute pitch. Or you can have the third thing that a VC is looking for, execution. If you have the ability to do business well, and you know your market very well, a lot of founders stop there. They go, I can't do anything until I get a VC to invest in me. I could go get all of these customers and dominate this market and spend all of this advertising money if only a VC would give me that money. Times have changed just a little bit. We all know and feel this, but if I can take a tiny aside, I would encourage you all, because I'm a mathematician, I love numbers, to look at something called the net present value of money. When we are investors and we are figuring out where to put our dollars, in the past, the interest rate was almost zero. Borrowing money was practically free. And so more importantly, if I have all of the money in the world, if I park it in a bank, they're going to give me almost nothing for it. If I put that in an investment that might return 100%, and it might return 100,000%, that's way more fun and exciting for me. It's also probably more profitable for me. I'm practically ready to give money away because that's what I would be doing if I gave it to the bank anyways. So when the interest rate was practically nothing, we bought houses and VCs bought businesses. What that means is if you're sitting in this room going, I kind of wish that the interest rate would go down so I can go buy a house, you are waiting for exactly the same thing that would cause money to be kind of flowing freely again. The landscape will still be different because VC has already changed. They've already seen that we can be better and they can bet on better, less uncertain things. But if you're sitting there going, I don't think the interest rate's going to go down, I'm going to go buy my house now, you are also saying, I don't think the interest rate's going to go down. I don't think VCs are going to be desperate to throw money at us anymore because the banks aren't giving them anything for it. It's macroeconomics, feel free to look it up, net present value of money. And if you want to get even fancier with it and you want to do a valuation for your business, there's something called the discounted cash flow method. If I had a whiteboard, I would be drawing it out for you. Instead, I want this to be really interactive and focused on the people that we have in the room today. So I'm actually going to stop at multiple points and I'm going to ask you guys to give me an example. It does not have to be your business. We're actually going to start by making up a business. And I'm going to give you an example of what you could do to show that you have business insight, market insight, and execution capability. Because what it really comes down to is if you can take all that you do and summarize it in 2 minutes in a way that gets a VC to say, I want to learn more, you have succeeded in your pitch. So if I could get somebody to call out an industry, we're going to make a business. Any industry at all. Housing, fun, okay. Can I get a show of hands? Raise your hand if your product is a service. Raise your hand if your product is technology. Raise your hand if your product is a physical good. We lean very highly towards technology and service, so I'm gonna go SaaS with this. We're gonna have a SaaS housing product. Last thing, can someone shout out, like everyone shout out, I'm gonna pick from a couple, some pain points we could have as a customer.
High prices.
High prices in housing, okay, anyone else? What?
Realtors not doing their job.
Realtors not doing their job, high prices in housing, anything else?
Not enough inventory.
Not enough inventory, okay. If we have not enough inventory, high prices for housing, and realtors are not doing their jobs. Can you go a little deeper? Why is a realtor not doing their job?
I'm a home inspector, so I actually have very innate with this industry. Listing agents not having properties ready for the inspection when they come to do the inspection.
Okay.
Encouraging them to ask for every single item on a repair list if that's what is required to be.
So does the official one else know from the contract that they're not doing?
They have one specific job depending on where you're at in that transaction. So.
Phenomenal, okay. I'm gonna create for us a pre-revenue product right now that addresses those 3 pain points as a technology, software as a service in the housing industry space. And I'm gonna go get some traction for it right now in the next 30 days. I'm gonna showcase what we could do in 30 days to be like, I am a founder that has business insights. I know what I'm doing in business. I have market insights. I understand this market, but actually I don't know the housing market a lot, so you might have to help me out a little here. And I can execute. If I can show you this in 2 minutes, having just created this product, my goal for you all is to walk away from this knowing that there is so much that you can do today without anybody else having any say in your business to go show that you are the bet that they are going to wish they made. They're going to have so much FOMO, fear of missing out, if you can prove you are someone who has business insights, market insights, and execution capability. So let's start with business insights. And I'm going to ask you guys afterwards, you guys will get a chance to ask me about your specific businesses, and I'll take 2 more examples like this. Business insights means I need to know what works. So for my customer, I think that I might be helping more than one customer here. I think that in the long run, this product might have to be something that realtors want to be a part of, be something that people who need housing want to be a part of. I might be targeting renters who want to have access to housing when there's not a lot of inventory, but I also might be targeting people who are buying houses. I've got to start somewhere. I've got to validate my thesis somewhere. So for the purposes of making this easy, I'm just going to pick renters. It's right in front of us. We'll pick that one. If housing prices are super high, renting prices are also super high, and on top of them being high, they're unstable. You don't own your home. There's a very low inventory as a total out in the space. So not only is inventory low if I wanted to buy, and it's a little difficult for me to do so if I haven't been saving for it, but on top of that, I don't really have a lot of options. If someone says this is what you get and this is the price that you pay for it, I might be going in that direction. And the last thing we talked about is the lack of transparent information. So if I know that some realtors aren't doing their jobs, it's not ready, maybe the houses aren't being kept very well, what can I do as a renter today to deal with all of these things? I'm feeling the pain of uncertainty in the marketplace as it pertains to how much I'm going to pay, having low inventory and not being able to buy things, and being like, it's just not ready. The first thing that I want to do is I want to find something that already exists in the marketplace. I'm going to pick something that I know has a negative connotation. There is a rent to buy program that may or may not work for you. They're all a little different. But if I know housing prices are high and I can't afford one right now, and there's low inventory, so I don't really have much choice right now, and I don't really want to live someplace where realtors aren't going to do a good job. I just want to live in a place that I like and be able to own that place someday, even though prices are high and inventory is low. This might be a product that if we could revolutionize and make really good, it would solve a couple pain points, right? That's actually market insight, and I don't have a ton of it, but I'm going to pull a couple things together, and I'm going to take business insight and I'm going to push it to the next level. I'm going to validate what that looks like. I'm going to say, so what do I need to do in order for my business model to work? I need to prove that there's people out there who feel these pain points, and I need to prove that those people will go, oh my God, I could rent and then all of my money would go towards buying something. I want to learn more. I want to know how this works. How can I do that in 30 days? I have no money. I'm not going to stand here and wait for a VC to write me a $100,000 check before I even prove this is a good idea. Any ideas on what I can do in the next 30 days? There's some easy ones out there. I'd love for us to grab some low-hanging fruit. You bet.
You can do some client discoveries, talk to some people.
Yes.
Ask them questions. And out of the questions that you should be asking is priority. If I build this product and I can solve these pain points, what's the likelihood that you're going to adopt this?
I love that. So what Yves is saying is we can do customer discovery, and I love customer surveys. This is one of my favorite things to do. If you're giving them a survey or doing a focus group interview setup, both amazing. And he's specifically saying focus on priority. If we were to create a product like this, how likely would you be to use it? Anybody else have some ideas? What can I do in 30 days without any money? Sunil.
Well, you may need a little money, but you could set up some landing pages and target people online with different potential ideas for what a product could look like,
Love it.
and see if there's engagement, see if there's interest, and set up a beta. Like, hey, if this becomes available, do you want to be on the waiting list, right?
Absolutely. So if you spend a little bit of money to set up some landing pages, you can test the reaction and the engagement based on those landing pages. And it's like a giant online customer survey testing that engagement. Yves.
You can also, just try to find some reliable information published by respectable sources that identify the size of the market.
Awesome.
So, whether it be like, we call it the Realtors Association, some sort of housing authority, if they have some annual report so that you can see what the size of the market is year over year.
Phenomenal. Yves is saying that you can go do some market research, get some people who are reputable in the space who have already published information to help you validate your idea. They've already done the work for you. Wouldn't that be great? These two people are phenomenal business leaders already. It makes sense that they have a lot of business insight, right? What does business insight look like? Across 3 examples, they identified, what do I need to tell someone so that they know my business model is going to be successful? In fact, we're not talking about a little bit of success. If we use the Jeff Bezos baseball analogy, when you're talking to a VC, you're not looking to hit a single or a double. You're looking for a grand slam that hits it out of the park so hard that you win every other World Series game ever, because in baseball, you can only get 4 bases at a time. But in business, you can get a 1,000x return. That's what they're looking for. And if you can show them a couple numbers that show them that you understand what it will take to hit a grand slam, that's business insights. If you then do something like go talk to your customers and say, I talked to 100 customers and 15 of them feel this pain point today. Okay, let's say that that's my first 30 days. In my next 30 days, I say, I talked to 500 more, and I'm going to tell you 2 things. 1, I've increased how many people I talk to. I went from 100 to 500. I'm talking to 5x more people. But 2, if I got 15 people who are like, yeah, I have that pain point in my first round, that's 15%. In my second round, if I have more than 75, let's say I have 100, now I have 20%. I'm going to tell a VC 2 things. 1, I've scaled up how many people I'm able to engage with, so I have a larger customer base or potential customer base in this situation. And I'm getting better at finding my customer. This doesn't sound fancy yet, but what if I put a little bit more oomph on everything that I'm doing? I'm not just going to do customer surveys. I'm going to say, I want you to sign up for a wait list. I want you to put down your credit card information, and you're going to get billed 99 cents for the first month. I don't need a lot of money. I literally just want you to prove that you will actually do this. And if I can get 100 people to do this, I think that I can show investors that this is a real problem and that people are waiting for a solution. I want you to put your credit card information down. And if we get approved, your first month is going to be 99 cents. That's my gift to you instead of its full price for being this early believer in me. Okay, so now they're saying you don't have 15 out of 100 people saying they're interested in you. You have 15 out of 100 people giving you their credit card information to be billed on a future date. Oh, that feels like traction, doesn't it? All right, so now I'm saying not only am I getting 15 out of 100 people to show me this is a real problem by putting their credit card information behind it, We said, I am now talking to 5 times more people than before. Okay, I am pulling in 5 times more customers before. I'm interested in understanding how you have a 400% growth rate over the course of 30 days. When I have a 2-minute pitch and I say, here's my problem, here's my product, here's my solution, and by the way, in 30 seconds, here's the traction that I've executed on it. In my first month, I talked to 100 customers and got 15% of them to put down their credit card details. In my second month, I grew that by 400%, and I increased my customer success rate, the percentage of people who give me their information, from 15% to 20%. I can tell this story in even more ways. 5% of 15% is a 33% growth rate. I grew the percentage of people who said yes to me by 33% in 30 days. Am I the founder that a VC investor wants to talk to? This is a product that we made up. We made this product up. It's totally pre-revenue. In the course of 30 days, we said, let's go do these customer surveys and talk to 100 people. Raise your hands if you think you could talk to 100 people who have interest in your product in the next 30 days. Yeah, we love that. This is something you could do right now. If you track the metrics behind that, because we talked about this at the very beginning, there's going to be pre-revenue metrics, post-revenue metrics, and not metrics. If you don't track it, you're in the not metrics category. You will spend 2 minutes talking about the process that you did. If you track your numbers, you get to spend 30 seconds sharing your numbers and having them go, I want to talk to you more. So if this is our pre-revenue world, I'm going to invite you guys. I would love one example that's pre-revenue, and if we have an example that's post-revenue, that would be fantastic. But is there anyone in the audience that would love to run this exercise with their product and their business? Oh, okay, we have two. We're going to start with that one because we had the first hand raised. Let's go.
What do you want? I'm sorry, what do you want?
Tell us your name and your product market area.
So my name's Jed Simper. My product market area is anybody who owns an RV, a boat, or a travel trailer.
Yes, I remember this, and it's going to be so fun. What is the problem you are trying to solve?
There's a severe lack of indoor facilities available for those type of vehicles, and the ones that are available have to be manually driven, and we've secured utility patents for a fully automated system to deliver those into the storage unit.
So what he said so far is there's a problem where if you have an RV vehicle, there's very few places where you can store this safely in an indoor facility, and he has a solution for this that will make it easier. What have you done so far to validate, to get traction in general for this product?
It's more market validation, 17,500 units for every currently available storage unit, with another 20 million buyers that are Gen Z and millennial specific in the next 5 years.
Awesome, okay. So what he said is he took Yvez's third piece of advice and said, let's go do some market validation, let's go see what research is out there so I can use some metrics to quantify that this is a problem. That's fantastic. The business insight there is he knows that if these numbers don't line up, problem might not be big enough to make sense for him to create a solution for it. So let's talk about what you could do in 30 days to be like traction. I have numbers that prove that I'm an executor. It proves that I'm going to go out there and I'm going to keep doing things. I am relentless. If you bet on me, I will make it work. Your worst case scenario is a single or a double, but market insight. I know this space very well, and business insight. I'm a really good business leader. What could we do in 30 days to show all 3 of those things? Does anyone have thoughts before I jump into it? Well, let's do the easy thing first. We're going to take our past example and we're going to copy paste it. I love this. Business works this way. It might be a different market, but the business insight is the same. This is why I say this is the easiest part to mimic. You can copy somebody else's business insights and say, well, what if I were to do a survey here? What if I were to go talk to 100 people and try to get them to give me credit card details and be like, here's my product, here's my solution, here's how it works for you. Here's how I will make money, and here's how you will get your problem solved. And they're like, oh, I kind of like this. And you get them to sign some sort of letter of intent, give you credit card information, anything. The closer it is to revenue, the more powerful it is. Please.
Also, because I don't want to sound like a know-all, but I just couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
A couple times. So beyond the letter of intent, because VCs have changed, right? They're not so much engaged in letter of intent pilot, if you can actually get one of your clients to be an angel investor, if you can build a community before you build a product, there are a lot of different things that you can actually like go above and beyond to really get, you know.
Fantastic.
Let me ask, I mean, I just want to understand, yours is not a software product. You're basically getting these people that have these.
He has a technology, but it's a service.
Right.
It's automated, you know, technology. He has patents.
Japanese parking, if anybody's familiar with Japanese parking, it's automated. They
Yeah.
go up in elevators. Same concept,
Yeah.
but the motorhomes are too heavy, so we'll go horizontal into a LEED certified climate control building.
Got it.
Beautiful buildings.
So for your business, you require investment for building that type of
The
stuff.
R&D and the manufacturing. Once
Got
I
it.
have 3 MVPs that can park any size motorhome, any size travel trailer, and any size fifth wheel.
And so what you really want to assess is two things, probably. Number one, is there, you know, do people want this, right? That's probably the first thing, is there demand, right? And the second is, what's the price point? Like, will they pay for it? Which then allows you to justify the business model, right?
Well, technically, at this early stage, right, you don't know what you're going to price, and you don't know what the market can bear. So if you were to get a paid pilot, and you were to get one client to say, okay, you know what, we don't really know what this is going to price out at scale, but let's say if they had an investor that invests in what do you call it, storage units, like all across the country,
Self-storage.
right? Like self-storage is their thing, right? And they said, okay, well, we have this new project that we're building. We thought about RVs. We see some, you know, something here. We'll invest in a paid pilot. Maybe we'll do a revenue share, right? You go and think of distribution. Go get the clients, right? And we'll front the money for the first round of equipment build out, right? If he was able to get like instead of the LOI, if he was able to get an actual paid pilot, and then you scale that up to 9, 10 paid pilots in like, let's say 3 states, you know, like your ability to really like sell this thing is going to really start to take off, because VCs again want that home run. They want that. But if there's another company that has just a bunch of LOIs, you're not on the same level.
I still think you can figure out how much money is to be made to begin
I
with.
actually have a really good idea. I pay to store a motorhome indoor. I know exactly what they pay.
So
What's the increase in a facility that would use your equipment? There's probably an improvement of non-money and of money. Is it, I'm assuming you'd have to pay more for this, or is it less for it? Does it save money?
Well, I mean, the difference between self-storage and RV storage is almost $1.50 a square foot. That seems backwards to me. They pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to store for a toy compared to a 10 by 15 storage unit, and the numbers are just totally off. So I believe with my technology and my facilities, I can absolutely increase revenue. But
What's the price point?
We're comfortable to enter the market where it's at and establish it as a brand.
what's the price point you currently pay as a user yourself?
I have a little 26-foot Class A motorhome. I pay $350 a month.
$350 a month. Okay, so I'm going to break this.
Average in the industry would be $275 a month. If we roughly estimate there's 11 million RV owners, if you figure 10% live in HOAs or high communities, that gives us about 1.2 million people paying at that $275 average.
I'm going to break this down so much because we've talked about a couple of different things, and what we just saw is all 3 of those elements coming from multiple different areas, but we saw business insights, we saw market insight, and we saw execution. I will also point out, when Jeff was talking at the end, you used a lot of different numbers and a lot of time. In a 2-minute pitch, if you're giving that to investors and they're sitting there and they're going, okay, so this times this times this times this, I mean, it could work, versus I'm going to go to Yovez's version of the world, and I'm not even going to go so far as to have 9 or 10 different paid pilots. But if they're like, I got one client and they gave me $10,000 in this month, and it's this small, and we think it's going to be much bigger. We think it's at least 100 times bigger. I take that one number, let's say it's $10,000, and I multiply it by 100, and I go, oh, this is at least a single. This is probably a double at least, right? The more concisely you can make that communication, that's our job as founders. The only person who is going to communicate how you solve the problem in this space, and therefore you are going to bring your product to market and all of the customers are going to buy from you. It's your job. And the way that a VC can tell this is by the way that you pitch them. If you cannot find the best numbers to be super succinct and direct to them and how you are going to make them money, they are your customer in that moment. So if you can't hit a grand slam in that moment, you lose one data point to prove to them that you would hit a grand slam with your customers. That doesn't mean they don't believe that you can, but it means that if somebody else did, this is one example. You had one shot. They hit 1 out of 1, they're at 100%. If you hit 0 out of 1, then they're going between 0 and 100% because most VCs don't take a second call with someone they don't believe in. So let's talk through all of this. We had a lot of business insights. We also had a lot of market insights, and we had a lot of execution. I'm going to go backwards. The strongest execution is Yves standing here, and I'm going to summarize because the mic doesn't pick it all up. But the ability to go out there and go find customers. And Yves is not playing with small customers. He's saying, I don't just want a paid pilot where one person stores their home. I want a paid pilot where I don't have a facility right now. That's my biggest problem. I'm going to go find someone who already has a facility, prove to them that I have a problem, have them do a revenue share agreement with me, and then I'll go get more customers. The only thing that this doesn't hit on is the actual customers. So the VC is still sitting there going, okay, but how do you get the customers? And his response is, well, I'm going to prove to you I have customers by having 9 or 10 of these. I wouldn't have 9 or 10 if they were all empty. So sometimes you can insinuate success through other metrics. Could it be possible that 9 or 10 of them have 4 or 5 of them empty? Absolutely. They could still be really early stage. They could not be there yet. But you get to tell the story that is most beneficial to you. You get to say, I have 9 or 10 agreements like this. I have 9, the 10th is in the works. And they get to sit there and be like, oh, I can see the level of execution, and you can give yourself 30 days while you're having conversations with this VC to get there. You had a question?
Yeah, so if we're taking money or a deposit, we're not touching that. That's just going to sit in an escrow account or a business account? Because we certainly still have a long ways to go to get to an MVP or an actual prototype.
Well,
in my scenario.
Well, I would say no, it does not sit in an escrow. Like, it goes to your account, number one. But number two, you have to really get people to just understand and agree that you are in this alpha testing phase. Like, you're just getting going. Okay, you have to tell them the expectations that within these time frames we're trying to get from here to here. Right? It's going to take time to build this out. It's going to take time to get this serviceable. Maybe there's regulations that are involved in this particular industry because it's mechanical and people can get hurt. Maybe OSHA has to get involved. Whatever, right? Set those expectations so that when you can focus on like the deliverables, everybody's on board. Now here's the thing. If you miss that mark, that's okay. Just communicate to people. Hey, we're a little bit behind. This took a little bit longer.
Business insights, absolutely.
Right? Communication, updates. Like, you have to be relentless with the updates. Sorry, I don't mean to keep taking over.
No,
I feel like
you are totally fine. Yves has a fantastic session later on. I strongly recommend seeing it. I will actually say I tried to catch it the first time and was very disappointed that we did not have that go as planned. I will say this. The execution here is so amazing, right? It's because it is the best way to show, not tell. When you can see Yves even talking about these things, you can feel the level of experience he has in both business insight. You want to sit down with him and you're like, how can I copy this? How can I make this relevant for me? But you know what he doesn't have? He's sitting here going, oh, well, you have to go validate your price. And Jeff goes, I know what the price is. I'm a customer in this space. I pay $350 and the average is $275. Yves does not store RV vehicles and is not an expert in the RV storage space. That's your market insights. We're going backwards here. The execution is super important, but you also need to have the market insights because you need to know what to execute on. You need to know what it is that you're supposed to be doing in this space because it's going to work for your customer. And Jeff is sitting here going, I can't go to market with this yet. I don't have an MVP that the customers are going to want. The only thing that we can say in this space is it's balancing all three of them. You're balancing the business insights, the market insights, and the execution. Because sometimes when you're really, really close to the problem, you're that market insights expert, you're afraid to go out and execute on something earlier stage to get the traction needed to prove that you're a better bet than you can do just talking about the problem. If you can go get the metrics that say, I can't bring them this product yet, but I can prove to you that they need it, those metrics are going to be valuable and there are ways to execute on that. Let's step into business insights for a moment. And again, you saw business insights in action. Raise your hand if you're looking here, you've heard all of this and you're like, Yves knows business insights. Raise your hand, yeah? It's because you can see it, right? But at the same time, Yves is also standing here going like, I should stop talking because he's showing business insights through words and English. And on the back end, across all of that conversation, what is a VC doing? Because we said this is about translation, right? A VC is hearing all of that and goes, check, he checks the box. And if you spend 2 minutes checking one box, business insights, you lose the ability to prove that you're an executor. You lose the ability to prove that you are a market expert in this space. You get 1 out of 3 check marks, and that investor doesn't need to see you again if somebody else in this room gave him 3 out of 3. We're going to come back to metrics. We talked about taking your survey, copying it over. We said there's a lot of different ways to do this. You could go big with paid betas, where people are giving you money to do a big beta program. I love the situation, and I'm always going to bring this perspective because there are other people who bring other perspectives that are fantastic as well. But my perspective is always going to be, what can you do? No holds barred. Nobody else gets any say in this. It is just you. And it's always going to be, one example of this is, go to the customer. Have your customer tell you that they want this. There's nobody who stops you from going to your customer. So if you know that that is always your baseline worst case scenario, I could go to my customer, I can go find 100 of them, I can have them tell me how many of them understand my pain point and how I solve that. Then the next month I'm going to go find 100 more. And I'm going to prove to you 2 things. The business insight is me understanding that I need customers to be successful and knowing how many of them I need and saying 100 a month isn't good enough, so I need 500 next month. And realistically, I'm trying to grow and scale to the point where I can speak to 10,000 leads in a month. Okay, that's your business model. But the other thing that's really important here is growth over time. If you can prove that in month 1, you're like, my messaging wasn't there. I know my market really well. I'm a pretty good business leader, and I executed a little bit, but I wasn't perfect in my first month. Here's why you should bet on me, because that's where I was 30 days ago, and just a short 30 days later, here's what I did the second time around. I didn't say, no, I'm done, because I only had 15% of people tell me my product wasn't good enough. I said, oh my God, 15% of people are telling me my product is going to help them. I got to get out there, and I got to bring this to market faster. So I went out and I found 400 people more this time, and now I'm at 500 people a month, and not only did I find more people, I found more people who actually have my problem, and I got better. So I either got better at communicating why my solution is going to solve their pain point, or I got better at finding who the customer is. And you know how I'm going to figure that out? Because in month 3, I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to do it even more in depth. And if you can come back and say 3 sentences, in month 1, this is how many people I worked with and the percentage rate. In month 2, here's my growth over that month. And in month 3, here's my growth over that month. This is a 30-second wrap-up, where in a 2-minute pitch, you get to tell them who you are, what your problem is, how you solve that problem, and then show them the numbers of how you've already started to do that. So this train is rolling with or without that VC. They can decide whether or not to get on, but you're going. I want to close this example with one other thing that it's fun to think about, right? Because we talked about your actual product, and your actual product is not yet ready to go to market. That's why we are in the pre-revenue example right now. I would love to have a post-revenue example, so if anybody has one, I'm going to prioritize that after this one. But my favorite version of doing this is, could you get revenue with a product that isn't exactly the product you're going to market with? I will actually say this very honestly, I'm doing this right now. I know that management consulting is super expensive. I left a world where I got a very nice salary to go do management consulting for other people. If I want to bring that to earlier stage businesses who hear management consulting and they translate that to, you're too expensive for me to think about, thank you very much, I've got to change the game here. And so what I've landed on is SaaS, technology, using software as a service, productizing management consulting the way so many management consultants are trying to do. I'm just solving a different problem. I want to help earlier stage businesses. What can I do today? Because I'm not a technology expert, I can't go make this in a couple weeks or months in my bedroom and then just be like, here's a great product. I can go validate that my product is needed. I can go validate it with revenue. I can create not a software as a service, but literally just the service. I can just sell classic management consulting. And if small early stage businesses don't want management consulting, they probably don't want management consulting as software as a service. The price point alone cannot be the only reason that they say this is what I need. If I do not have people saying, I love you, but I can't afford you, I'm not solving a problem. If they say, I love you, but I can't afford you, I know that this is a customer for my future product, and I want to keep building this community of people. I want to keep in touch with them. I want them to be my beta testers when I actually create this, and I go, remember how we said I'm too expensive? Here you go. Does this work? And they can tell me, these are all of the reasons why it's totally different for me to use the software than it is for me to talk to you. And I can go, okay, iterate again. So is there a service version of storing your RV and parking it into the trailer and having it be indoors?
There is, that's actually what we pay for right now. That's why there is the difference in the price. It's a little bit of a valet service, but it's a nightmare.
It is a nightmare. If you run your own version of that with customers that you can directly reach out to. If you're saying you pay $350 a month now, I want you to pay $350 a month with me. Why? Because you're going to be an early stage, basically investor. You're going to bootstrap the version of this that we all want. And all you have to do is stop using your old terrible provider that has all of these problems that you and I both know about. I'm going to solve some of these right now. I'm going to solve more of them later, and then I'm going to give you a great deal on price because everyone's going to have a better deal on price. But you in particular, as an early believer and adopter of this, that basically makes it possible for me to start this business, I'm going to give you extra special things for. Will you give me your credit card details?
Question, can you create a metric to capture the frustration of the balance of this, like 8 hours, 10 phone calls, or something?
I love that. I'm going to say it again for the microphone. His question was, can you get a metric to capture the frustrations today and all of these pain points today? Because we started off with revenue metrics, non-revenue metrics, and non-metrics. If you can take that frustration, which was a non-metric, and turn it into a metric, is that something that we could do to show how powerful this problem is?
Absolutely.
How would you do that?
Well, there are several metrics. Again, everything is manual. So if your motorhome is 5D, they need 2 days to get your motorhome out. So that time element, the employee element, and then there's supposedly secure facilities have had things stolen several times. So there's aspects that we could probably use on that too. This is me from my own personal experience. I've talked to almost 500 people. If you own a travel trailer or boat, you can't park indoors for insurance because somebody has to physically move it in. That's over 60% of the market.
So I'm going to jump in again.
This is something that can be quantifiable, absolutely, by the problems for an indoor facility, sure.
So I'm going to jump in again. Clearly, market insight expert here. He knows his space. Of the three, the one that I'm flexible on is business insight expert. Why? The VC probably is one. The VC probably knows business very well. This is the easiest thing for him to help you overcome. Market, no. You need to be an expert here. You need to have someone on your team, or I have to be that person. And if I'm more of an expert than you are, why am I betting on you? You've got to bring me something else, right? So the last one is execution. Because again, all of the things that you're saying right now, you're telling the story of, here's why I can do this. It is always going to be faster to give them a page of your sales and say, I already did. So I'm going to give one last thing to close out this example. The question was, can you measure this frustration? And I'm going to give you one example of how. He said on average it's going to take about 2 days to get your RV out of this facility. If in your customer survey and your focus groups, you ask that question, how long does it take you to get your RV out? How many days in advance do you have to be planning today? And they go, 4 days. And you ask them a question, how much would you value being able to get it out sooner? And they go, this is a huge pain point for me. And you go, what does that mean to you? You can ask them, how many more dollars? Would you switch? Would you recommend this to a friend if it would be 1 day? Figuring out the right version of this question, that's a market insights item, right? That's showing them, I know this market really well. I know how to phrase this question so that the customer will communicate with me, pick up what I'm putting down and go, I know what you're asking. I want 30 minutes. If I can tell you I'm on my way and you can have the RV ready for me, I would pay $200 extra a month for that. If I can tell you the day before, this is like $50 to me. This would be ideal information to get, right? I'm not a market expert in this space. I could not tell you what's the right way to talk to the customer so that they give you that information back. There you go. Magic trio, you want business insights, you want market insights, and you want execution. If you can prove all of that in a 2-minute pitch, the investor's gonna say, I wanna talk to you again. Let me get another example, and then this time I'm going to ask and prioritize for a post-revenue example. If we have a post-revenue example, I'm going to take that first. If not, I'm just gonna talk on it super quickly and we'll do another example anyways. Anybody? Let's go, big TV.
All right, we'll do that one. I have multiple post-revenue companies. We'll do Pig TV. What would you like to know?
Tell us your name, the problem, and how you solve it.
My name is Josh. The problem is that most people can't afford development services, and I solve it by building on terms that are generally very agreeable, because I can build a lot of MVPs, software, stuff like that in a day or two.
Awesome, okay. So, problem is technology development isn't always affordable. His solution is, I can do that more affordably for you. Sounds like it's a pretty good fit, right? That's why he's post-revenue. Let me ask really quickly, is investment something you are going for? Just for the purposes of this panel, because we're talking about traction for VC investment, it would need to be a grand slam. So what does grand slam, I know for you it's impact, it's based on how many businesses you help. Is it based on dollars?
Yeah, I like money.
Cool, all right, let's talk money. I'm gonna ask you to give like example numbers. Level of magnitude is super helpful. You don't have to give specifics, but what is your monthly revenue currently?
So I'm not going to get into that. What I will explain is I built a business from scratch to $700K a year in revenue at about 80% gross profit margin, and my current tech company is built to be an assembly line for building highly profitable industries. So to address the marketing challenge, we like to find non-technical partners and say, let's get you to market, give you some great tech, and then catapult you forward, because most of the tech is very expensive, but it's not a huge ongoing time commitment. So for example, if we had more money, we could do more projects. But yeah, we're about 70 deep so far.
So we are not VCs. He does not have to disclose this information to us, but as a lot of us are pre-revenue, and we would maybe say things like that are in this vein, which are not saying you don't have revenue, but if we didn't have revenue, we would say, well, if I had money, I could do more projects, right? Classic investor conversation. It's a lot of time to translate to them saying, okay, so I'm uncertain about you as a bet as it comes to revenue. Again, he doesn't have to disclose his revenue to us, but I'm going to throw out a number there that's really, really small for a technology development firm. Let's say it's $10,000 a month, right? Just barely in the 5 digits. They go, okay, but if he goes, I got here from $0 last month. The growth story is crazy. Okay, let's say he goes, well, I had $1,000 last month. There's a couple of different reasons I want to talk about post-revenue. It's because revenue has so many metrics in it. When you are at pre-revenue, you don't see all of these metrics. So you don't see all of the ways you could tell your pre-revenue story using non-revenue traction, because everything I say about revenue, you can translate and say customers. Everything I say about paid customers, you could translate and say about community members. If somebody is in your community and not giving you money today, and you measure that, that growth is important to me. That traction, you going out there and meeting people and executing on knowing your customer and bringing them into your fold and being able to market to them later is important to me. It doesn't have to be revenue, but I'm going to break it down with revenue because there's so many numbers on the side that it's really, really easy to work with. So first thing in revenue, annual recurring versus not recurring. If I have a one-time project in technology development and I'm getting $10,000 for this one project, it's less sexy to an investor than someone who says, I pay $10,000 per month, every month, here's my credit card, you bill it on file. Even if it was $1,000 and saying, okay, so what I'm gonna do is you have the option to buy this project for $10,000 up front, but the whole purpose of my project is that technology development is expensive and I know you can't do that. So instead, I'm gonna ask you to pay me $1,000 per month and give me your card on file, annual recurring revenue, monthly recurring revenue, actually.
Well, and I cheat on that a bit because we sell the hosting as well. So we got $30 a month that we'll charge for hosting for most things. So we get the service work, so we've got that non-recurring charge of the service work, and then the recurring charge on the hosting. So that way you can stack the revenues over time.
Do you know what's really sexy about recurring revenue?
Every fucking month.
Certainty. Certainty. Your profit, like the money in your business, is based off of 3 factors. Well, it's actually based off of 2 factors, but in terms of the way that an investor sees you as an investment, there's a 3rd factor that we're going to talk about. How many customers do you have? So if you have a huge community, that matters a lot to me. How much do they pay? If you're pre-revenue, you cannot prove that easily. If you can do those customer surveys, if you can get letters of intents, if you can get them on wait lists, if you can get cards on file, anything you can do to prove that piece, super helpful. But what's the last factor that recurring revenue just kills completely, almost completely? It's risk. If I can give you certain guaranteed revenue, that's beautiful. If you were going to go make an investment right now and go to the bank and purchase a CD, they're going to promise you 4%. That's guaranteed, almost guaranteed. So if there is a guarantee and absolutely no risk, that is totally different than going to the casino and spinning the roulette wheel. And you're like, I don't know what's going to happen to this. What is an investor going to be more drawn to if they want to go take the money out of this investment and invest it again? There are investors who have play money. This is actually a really fascinating example that I love. If you meet a lot of VC managing directors, they'll say this: I couldn't invest in this company as the VC, as the fund, but I did it as an angel. Why does that happen? It's not about believing them, actually. It's because as an angel, I get to believe in you. As an angel, I get to believe in the vision that you have and the future that you're going to create. As an angel, I get to do things that are fun for me personally. As a VC, I have a fiduciary duty to invest in things that are going to bring profit to the fund. I'm investing somebody else's money and I'm not allowed to make an investment that's not going to make sense for me. VCs predominantly look for post-revenue businesses because they got to prove that you're going to bring money in. There's one large exception in this space, and it's FDA approval. If you are a medical company that needs over $1 million to get FDA approval, they're familiar with the space. If you're not in that space, you might want to rethink whether or not you can bring them revenue, or you got to rethink whether or not you want a VC fund. There's a lot of angels out there, and a lot of VC fund managing directors are also angels. You got to figure out what you're going to use your 2 minutes to get them to do with you, because what you really want is, I want to talk to you again. So we said we were going to break revenue down. One of them is recurring revenue versus non-recurring revenue. If you have to give up a little bit to get recurring revenue, instead of charging $10,000 and getting all of that right now, I'm going to charge you $1,000 a month, and I'm going to bet that you stay with me. This does a lot of things. One, it can build you to be a more successful business, but it opens up new metrics. And I love numbers, right? The number that we want to talk about is churn rate. 10,000, 1,000. I need you to stay for 10 months. I need my average customer to be here with me for more than 10 months for it to make sense for me to want them to buy at $1,000 a month instead of 10,000. But if I have a churn rate of 5% a month, that's pretty high, but also not that high. it's totally reasonable that if you signed up for a free trial, then at the end of your free trial, you're like, nope, I'm done. Track that number. If your month 1 attrition decreases by 30%, you did something big. A VC wants to know what you did. They want to learn from you because you have market expertise that they don't have, but you also did something in the business that they want to know more about because it might be something they wouldn't know how to do. They want to talk to you more. Find a number that sounds crazy, but it's true, that you can back it up from every angle because all of these things have to be true. You can use the data to tell the story you want to tell, but it's still the business that you actually have. It's still the customers that you actually have. So if we're doing this world where we have recurring revenue versus non-recurring revenue, there's different metrics to take a look at. If you have non-recurring revenue, what I want to look at is how often do your customers choose to come back? How many times do you have repeat customers? If you are tracking that information, that would be really helpful. But a lot of businesses didn't track this. If you go to a retail store like Nike and you swipe your card, there was a time when they could not tell who you were at all. They could not tell you how many times the same person buys something. They couldn't tell you what their average customer purchases. They couldn't tell you where is the tier between here's my super fan, here's my fan, and here's people who come shop every once in a while. They couldn't tell you what percentage breakdown that looks like. Am I a pyramid? Am I a rectangle? One of the things that changed this was loyalty programs. They don't give you points because they want to give you points. They give you points because if you are incentivized to sign in every single time and tie all of your purchases to an account, then they get to see more data that helps them determine how they run their marketing, how they run their distribution, what city should I put this specific product in to launch. If I go to LA for this launch versus Las Vegas for this launch, what does that look like? Does it make sense for me to launch in 5 major cities at the same time or 3? All of these questions they answer with data that come from their revenue and come from their sales. How early can you start tracking this? You can start tracking this at revenue. You can start tracking this pre-revenue. You can start tracking this at community levels. If you are, let's say for example, you had to choose between Las Vegas and Phoenix to launch and have your grand launch moment and have your community come out and support you. If you had data that said, I'm based in Phoenix, but there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of users, and I have a bunch of people in my Slack channel from Vegas and from Phoenix, you might sit there and be like, I actually want to launch in both cities. I don't know which city to launch in first. You might sit there and say, what's the story I want to tell it to investors? I want to tell them a growth story. Okay, if I want to tell them a growth story and I have a good community here in Phoenix, I might choose to do my grand initial launch in Phoenix, where I already have a lot of my community. I'm actually going to pick this very, very strategically because business insights are fantastic. Then I'm going to go to Las Vegas, where I haven't spent a lot of time yet. Why? Because my business insights are telling me instinctually that if I've been in Arizona the whole time, and I've been in Phoenix the whole time, and I've been going to networking events in Phoenix the whole time, I might have pretty decent market penetration in Phoenix. Versus in Vegas, I might not have very much market penetration because I haven't been there a lot. If I have about equal numbers between these two places, if I have 100% market penetration and that's 100 people in Arizona, and I have 10% market penetration in Vegas, and that's 100 people, my market in Vegas is really big. So I said I was going to do this strategically, right? I don't want the biggest grand launch moment. The grand launch moment isn't actually that important to me. Because if I want investment from VCs and I want traction and I want to show them I'm an executor, I just need to show them I'm doing something each time. I can show them that I have business insight, market insight, and execution when I do my grand launch. And then I'm going to come to Vegas, and in addition to having a launch, in addition to having business insight, market insight, and execution, I'm going to say, I grew my user base by 250 people in one event over the course of 7 days. And they're like, what? How? Because I knew coming in that I hadn't tapped into the Vegas market completely. And if I started there, I was going to grow big. And then I was going to come back to Phoenix. And I was going to have a pretty normal event, but not that much more growth because I'd already penetrated this market. If I do it the reverse way, I get to have my grand launch moment, and then I get to have a grand growth moment, and then I get to decide where I go next. If you guys are walking away with this with only one message, I want that message to be that you can make that change in your business right here, right now. You don't need anybody else to tell you anything. You can be the traction that you need to get anything from a VC fund to an angel investor to, from my perspective, plan B is to bootstrap. If you do so well on revenue, you never need an investor. That is the ultimate FOMO. Please make it a gift to all of your fellow friends in this room to be so wildly successful that when somebody else says, I'm an executor, here's what I do, the investor says, please take my money, I'm scared that I'm gonna miss out on another Jeff. Please do that for them. Plan B is bootstrap. Plan A is to go get the numbers, the revenue, the traction that you need to succeed no matter what. But it's gonna draw an investor to you because it's gonna make you a really, really good bet. I'm going to break us a little bit early so we can take questions one-on-one. But before we do that, does anybody have a question they want to ask as a group? If it's not about your personal business, if it's a comment that you have to share with everyone.
So, I just, I appreciate everything that you really put out, but I would say that from the folks that I know in the room, a lot of us are more in the pre-seed stage, right? Which VCs are not really that attracted to the stage, right? Because most of it's pre-revenue, a lot of it is pre-MVP. Is there a particular metric, one thing that you could recommend for specifically pre-seed?
Pre-seed, it's going to be how can you get product market fit? That matters more than anything else. If you can prove that your problem is a real problem, that your customer exists, and they want to work with you, pouring money in to make the product work, pouring money in to make the product visible and easily discoverable, those are the things that venture can easily solve. But I will also remind us that there's a big difference between a venture capital fund, and almost every venture capital fund has this, a university, an accelerator, an early pre-seed, pre-product opportunity. And there are going to be accelerators that want you to be post-revenue, post-product. But there are also accelerators that are looking for you at the very, very, very beginning. Because if they can get you to grand slam from your single, that's the biggest win that they can possibly get. They are looking for you. You just have to prove that you're the good bet. Because you are, especially in those accelerator programs, you're frequently competing with people who are post-revenue because it's easier for them to tell that story.
And I'll just add one thing, which is she's right on the metrics. Like, you got to show customers want what you're trying to build, right? But more than that, at that stage, VCs are looking for, or investors, forget VCs because it depends on the time, right? But are looking for, do you have a team, right? Do you have the ability to execute and build a product? Do you have an understanding of the sales cycle, et cetera? I mean, so they're looking at many things. So these accelerators can be a great place for you to not only build something fast, build a business model and business plan, but also attract team members, right? So there's a lot of ways to do that, but you got to at least show that there's demand for what you're doing.
I will also share this fun tidbit about, like, VCs don't sign NDAs. They just don't. They think of it as a little bit naive. But why? Because we're sitting here going, this is so precious and special. And you want to know why? Because if you tell them this is a great idea, if you say there's 100,000 people that need this product and here's how it's going to solve their pain point and how much they're going to pay for it, you've told them that there's a great opportunity. But you know what they have literally no information about? They're not a market expert. They have no idea how to find the customer, what to tell the customer, and how to get money from that customer. They need you. When you're communicating those elements to them, you're communicating to them that you are a crucial member of that team. That if they want to target this opportunity, they can put other team members around you, but they can't replace you because they don't know how to find that customer. You did. There was a question over here.
Yeah, so first off, I want to say that, a few of you provided a few tools that as I've listened to it, it's just obvious on its face that within my situation, it's like, I've kind of done a lot of positioning, and it's just, like, for some reason, until you've actually kind of presented it. It's like, God, I've been like a dumbass all this time. I've just been trying to figure out my stuff. But anyway, I'm gonna kind of, even though like a lot of stories, and especially like a lot of processes that I've heard from other founders, and especially with as it relates to kind of maybe getting like a tech product, for example. So a bunch of people are trying to do some sort of tech product, but they tend to skew towards B2C consumers. So even though kind of just like reflecting back on within my process, and I could probably answer this myself, but just kind of just throwing it out there, and it'll probably seem obvious. So would these steps, of course, you segmented it between like pre-revenue building, for example, would these actually work for let's say a more complex process like a B2B company process?
Yeah, so for B2B, I'm actually going to go a little bit towards Yovez's direction. You're still working with individual customers. It's just that the classic problem in B2B is that there's a principal agent problem. The person who is buying the product, there's usually one decision maker or a small group of decision makers who have to make a decision for an entire company. And so in this B2B space, you are playing higher stakes. You're going to expect that your traction numbers are going to be a little bit smaller because one customer is going to be an entire company. But Yovez, you seem to want to jump in.
I would definitely say in the B2B space, you're going to have to really focus on the sales cycle and the approval process because there is an initiator, there is some sort of approval structure. Does this need to be approved by the CFO? Like all those type of things have to be clarified, but you're not going to really talk about that in the pitch. And then 2 minutes, you're going to really just talk about like who you landed, and maybe you can give like one brief sentence of like how you landed it, whether it be like a top-down approach or a bottom-up approach, and get the meeting. Like, let's set a meeting so I can tell you more, right? Like, that's what the goal is.
Sorry, I'll let you go real quick.
Yeah, so I run a B2B company, and I was taking some notes. It's post-revenue, we've been having good revenue, but I'll tell you some notes that I took based on the conversation today. What are the metrics or the traction metrics that you can show as a B2B company? Revenue growth, right? Is your revenue growing? Product adoption, which modules, which features? Customer leads, are you getting more? Client pilots, community members, how much of the revenue is recurring? Analyst mentions, right? So for example, if you get analysts to talk about your product in the market. Client retention metrics, so how many of your clients are you retaining over a period of time? Revenue expansion with existing clients, so if you're starting at 100,000, is it growing to $1 million over time, right? Channel partner sales, if you're selling directly versus channel partners, how are they adopting? The number of channel partners that are actually using or selling your solution. So there's a lot of traction metrics that you can measure in B2B that VCs are going to want to dig into to help them really understand whether your business is viable and growing or not.
I love that. Thank you so much. I am going to pull that super early stage because Sunil is a great person to talk to see what late B2B technology looks like. But in that super early stage where you're saying, I'm trying to land my first B2B client, there's a couple of other things that are going to be super helpful. And one thing that I will invite you all to take a look at is when a company goes public, they suddenly have all of their information and materials on the internet. So Splunk is a great example of a late stage B2B company where you can go take a look at all of their metrics. And I'm actually working on an article where I want to take one slide. It's the third slide of their deck. And it just has an overview of 5 core metrics, because those metrics can be translated, as Sunil did, into what does that mean in terms of growth? How does a VC see their money coming back in this way, right? Why would a casual person buying stock choose to buy Splunk stock? So all of those reasons, all of that reasoning and logic is all going to be in that one page of the Splunk deck. 5 metrics are going to show you so much. But for B2B items, my favorite metric that Sunil mentioned was actually analyst. That if you can get PR articles, this is not revenue. You're looking for non-revenue metrics that show that you're getting traction before you get your first sale. If you are super, super early stage, this is something that you absolutely need. People talk about product hunt all the time. If you can get some sort of buzz around your product before it has revenue, that's going to be helpful for you, right? Product hunt, PR, even just saying, you know what, I am on LinkedIn, I created a LinkedIn for this, and its first month, all of the posts associated with this B2B product that I'm building had a total of 100,000 impressions and 10,000 engagements. In month 2, we grew to 5 million impressions, and our engagement rate went up by 5% more. That you can track all of those things. It doesn't have to be revenue. Figure out how you're winning, because the answer is what you're spending your time on should be what you're winning on. And if you're not spending your time on things that are going to tell your Grand Slam story, you're going to end up reprioritizing your time. If you're spending your time on the right things, but you're not tracking it, you're not looking at your metrics, you're not finding ways to quickly tell your story, take a look. If you're using good platforms and good technology, it might have done a lot of the work for you and you don't have to start from scratch. But the worst case scenario is anybody in this room can start from 0 and say today is day 0, tomorrow is day 1 of my 30-day sprint where I'm going to start tracking this number, and at the end of 30 days, I'm going to have something I can tell a VC. At the end of 60 days, not only will I have that number, I will have the ability to show them my growth in that area and why they want to bet on me. Thank you all so much. I'm going to break us here. Please enjoy food, and I'm here for questions.